now listening to the Schuster Express on 1252 Sports Chicago. And now for your host, David Schuster.
And good evening and welcome into my humble little podcast. I am David Schuster, and momentarily I'll be joined by two giants in the Chicago sports broadcasting industry, and I'm very fortunate to call both of them my friends. Mr. Mark Grote, who you can follow on Twitter, not very original name on Twitter, at Mark Grote, and also Mr. Dan Levy, a little bit more original name for Twitter, at Base on Air. Also, very special mention this evening to Mr. Harry Berg, known as Harry the Greek. He's producing tonight's show. He has his own show right here on 1252 as well, each and every Friday night, The Over Under with Harry Berg. And you'll be hearing from Harry during the show tonight as well. But coming up on the show, besides having both Mark and Dan, and we're going to have some fun, some laughs, go down memory lane, get some trivia questions in at the end, pick the brains of both these giants of the sports broadcasting industry. I've worked with Mark for a long time. Of course, everybody should know that I work with Mark at The Score. He's currently still there. I'm not. And Dan, I've known for a long time also. We have crossed paths in a lot of different avenues, and we'll talk about that as well. We want to, of course, talk about the Bears. They're certainly in the news. They're a soap opera that just continually goes on and on and on. And Mark will have some good insights because he is Mr. Bear reporter on The Score and also on WBBM, does the sideline reporting there with Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer. So we'll get some really good insights from Mark on that. We'll talk about the NFL in general. There's some crazy games as always in the NFL. There are no great teams. I talked to Harry about this even before the show started tonight. There are no great teams in the NFL. That's just a fact. There's some good teams. There's a lot of lousy teams, that's for sure. But there's no great team. So really, it's anybody's ball game to win the Super Bowl this year. We'll talk about college football. And I think I saw Mark tweet about this, and we'll bring him on just in a couple more seconds. I think Mark had enough of the post-game Michigan show yesterday, if I remember hearing his tweet. We'll talk about the Bulls, the Cubs, and the White Sox. All right, without further ado, let's bring them on one at a time. Harry will do the technical part. And there is Mark. Hey, Mark, how are you?
David, I'm doing well. You know, the funny part about that college football that you alluded to, I never watch college football. I'm the worst college football fan. I'm a fraud when I watch it, but I did watch most of Michigan, Ohio State. And, you know, because, you know, whatever, there was a lot of juice on that game. So I did watch it. And then at the end, I'm like, this is Super Bowl coverage. Doesn't it get embarrassing after a while that Michigan is throwing this party for beating a team that they should beat every once in a while?
Yeah, it's probably because Fox, you know, has the game. They call it the game. And I don't know how many years Fox has had that game on there. It used to be ABC for years and years and years. So, yes, they absolutely went overboard. Thankfully, I had to run off to the Bulls game at the United Center, so I didn't hear all that garbage. But I think those fans are still on the field from yesterday. I don't think they've ever left.
I mean, and I get it. Yeah, you should be excited. That was a fun game to watch. It was a fun win. But after a while, you're starting to act like you're Illinois State or something.
I wonder how many of those players got laid last night. Oh, can I say that on a podcast? Well, I just did. Whatever. Hey, Dan, also joined here, of course, by Dan Levy, Mr. Bass on Air. I love that name, by the way. I don't even have to look very hard to find you on Twitter. I know that because...
Nope, not a hard find at all.
There's that Bass voice.
Wait, anyway. Did you say Bass on Air?
Base,
Bass, whatever. I'm just fooling around with you guys. Anyway, Dan, of course, we're all friends. I mean, we've enjoyed each other's company in a friendly way, nothing more than that, for a long, long time. And that's why I wanted to have both you guys on at the same time tonight. Mark, let's start with football, of course, because, you know, it was enjoyable non-Bears Day. I don't know for you, but for me, it certainly was. So how does Mr. Mark Grote spend a non-Bears football Sunday?
I got to tell you, like, this is the first time where I usually hate Sundays without the Bears. I think a lot of people that do what I do, they love it. I think football fans like a break from the norm. I don't. I love the Sunday games. So I'm a little bit unique that way. But this is the first time since I've been covering the Bears, and this is my 4th year, where I thought everybody needed a little break. I'm talking the players, the coaches, everybody, the media, like everybody. We all needed not that we're all obviously different entities motivated by different things, but that this was one like group nap, I think, over the last 2 days, just with everything that has gone on, and hopefully it gets back to some form of normalcy when we return to Hallis Hall on Monday.
I hate to tell you this, Mark. It is not going to get back to normalcy. And like I said, the soap opera shenanigans, unfortunately, for a lot of the people up there, is going to continue all the way through that last game in Minnesota. But before we get to your insights, because you were there, of course, at Hallis Hall when all this stuff was unfolding last week, Danny, what are your thoughts on the Bears soap opera?
Well,
Hello. I just can't wait for this season to end. I think I'm one of the few people that knew exactly what was going to happen this season. No offensive line, a rookie quarterback who shouldn't even started, even though Dalton went down with an injury. They had Nick Foles. I think by throwing Justin Fields out there, they totally made it where this poor guy is going to get hurt over and over and over again. And I can't wait for the season to be over with. And I can't wait to see whether or not Ryan Pace will still be there, because the Bears have a way of just making people upset. They just really like knowing that they're going to make people upset, and he's probably going to be back next year, and so will Nagy. So unless they get fired, I think I'm just waiting for like everybody else for the season to end.
hey,
You just turn the page. But the Bears have a way of just keeping
there's a
the status
lot
quo.
of season to go, man. 6 games. That's a long way to go, bro.
Yeah, there's about 5 losses or 4 losses in those 6 games, unfortunately. Hey, Mark, I'm going to give you my thoughts initially, but again, you were on the scene, so I really want to get your bird's eye view of what you felt up there last week, because I keep using the word soap opera. That's exactly what it was. This reporter, and I never heard of this guy, Pulitzer Prize or not, I never heard of this guy, Mike Conkle. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Mark Kunkel.
Mark Kunkel. Mark, is it? I thought it was Mike, but whatever.
Kunkel.
Okay.
Doesn't make a difference, really. A Pulitzer Prize winner for I have no idea what, but certainly it wasn't sports, and someone fed him something. He didn't come up with this on his own, Mark. So I'm wondering what the talk was up at Hallis Hall. Somebody fed it to him to throw this out there, to either embarrass somebody, Nagy, or I don't know what. And then when it didn't happen, I mean, Kunkel looked stupid, but hey, that's what happens when you go with a story that you're not really sure of. And then the whole thing, about having first Tabor talk, and then, Nagy unfortunately talk, nobody from the Bears brass talking. Then McCaskey talks to the players on Wednesday, no media, of course. And then the whole story doesn't happen, of course, that day or after the Bears game on Thursday. And then it comes out that George McCaskey, that would be a real story if it was Mike. If George McCaskey was the one who told Nagy to have Justin Fields be his quarterback, and Nagy unfortunately has to say that's not true, even though I'm 99.9% sure it was. So I'm just wondering, you were part of all that last week. What was it like up there?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because none of us knew. I mean, there was one person, as you said, with one report. And I know Mark Conkle a little bit. He did great work with the Sun-Times, and he is the essence of a legit reporter. So that's why the story was important to people covering, because sometimes you get these stories from, loose end, podcasters, or they fake stuff to us. So you got to be careful. But in this case, there was credibility to it. So, it was a strange day because it started off with Chris Tabor, the special teams coach, fielding questions for this report. And, in hindsight, they should have changed that as well. Not that it wasn't that big of a deal, because Tabor could answer how he wanted to, and he got through it just fine. But then immediately when Matt Nagy came up there, he was asked about it and immediately said the story was inaccurate. I think that's an important language to consider. He said it was an inaccurate story. But when Nagy was then asked, do you feel like you have job assurance for the rest of the season? He didn't answer it. He wouldn't answer it. So honestly, I have a hard time believing there wasn't some form of truth to the report that Matt Nagy was supposed to be fired after Detroit. What I do believe is that somebody who is in the know leaked it, which probably pissed everybody off that is at Hallis Hall, understandably, because you can't fire a guy that way with him being the last one to know. So it is possible, I stress, that there was some truth to it. You know, you have that guy. You have Hub Arkish, who had the report that Justin Fields was the starter because George McCaskey said so. And they came out and debunked that story as well as best they could. I don't know if they actually debunked it because it's still out there for question. But they said, you know, Matt Nagy offered it up that, oh, that's crazy. No, it was all of us. So, and again, it's like lawyer language. Yeah, it was all of you, but it's kind of like when anybody's boss makes a suggestion, then you're probably going to lean towards the boss's suggestion. So who knows semantically what it was, but there's got to be bits and pieces of truth to all of this. But it's been wild. There's no doubt about it.
Let me just sum it up this way. If the lie detector tests were being told last week and even going forward and maybe even going way back in the past at Hallis Hall, everybody would have flunked it up there who works for the Chicago Bears, especially that part about Justin Fields. Because if you remember, Mark, and I know you do, and Danny does as well, you know, a couple days before they made the change of quarterbacks and announcing that Fields was going to be the permanent starting quarterback going forward, it was Nagy who said, well, barring an injury, there's not going to be any change in quarterback. And then 2 days later, they changed the quarterback. So his arm was definitely twisted on that one. And now he's saying the same nonsense that, you know, barring any further injury, Justin Fields is the starting quarterback, when you damn well know that he doesn't want him to be the starting quarterback and that Dalton gives him a better chance of winning football games at this juncture. So, yeah. I mean, it's all just a crock of shit up there.
Well, and also, if I may add,
yeah, please.
If all of a sudden Nagy's the one that's supposed to be getting fired, and I know Mark Conkle, I know him pretty well. He's not a sports guy, and for somebody to give him that information, it's somebody pretty high up who gave that to him. Sure. He didn't just get it from, like, you know, an equipment manager. That guy knows people. So if he has a story that Matt Nagy's going to get fired, why would you ask Matt Nagy that one? I think he would be the last person to know that he was about to get fired. I think someone leaked it, and Matt Nagy did not know. So they're not going to be like, hey, are you getting fired? He's not going to say today's my last game. You got to go to the head people to ask that question. Matt Nagy's going to say, I'm just preparing for a game. There's no way he's going to say, oh, yeah, guess what? They told me I was going to get fired after this game, but I'm still preparing for it.
Yeah, well, there's no question about any of that. Hey, Mark, there was a question that came up on the board here, and it's periodically I'll read some of them. First of all, somebody wanted to know if you prefer football over baseball. I'll start answering and go, well, baseball, he won a World Series ring. Football, I don't think he's ever going to get that Super Bowl ring. So go ahead and answer the question for yourself.
So the question is, what do I like covering better?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's football. I loved my 4 years with the Cubs. Like, it was unbelievable, and I could not have been part of that. Well, not part of the organization, but you know what I mean, part of the Cubs at a better time. I was very lucky in that regard. I went to football, and the lifestyle of covering football, I don't think there's a better beat. You know, it is, you know, a rough draft 9 to 5 job. You know, we all, and in our business, obviously, there's really nothing 9 to 5 about it, but you know what I mean? It's about as close as it gets. It's 17 games, maybe a couple more if your team that you're covering is in the postseason. And then the other part is the interest of the NFL is monumental in terms of the reach that you could have on social media or on other radio stations across the country. NFL information and NFL insight is on demand every minute of our lives. So so football is better, but it doesn't mean I did not enjoy the hell out. Baseball is a grind. I was lucky enough to be on the old charters, but it is, no matter what, man, it is a grind, and you are exhausted when the adrenaline wears off at the end of the season.
But nobody did the post-game show better than you, Mark. Nobody. Of course, I was on it with you sometimes. So
nobody has ever done the Bulls post-game show better than you.
Oh, gosh, I'm blushing. No, I'm not. All right, what's this next question? Troy, I can never say this guy's name. What about him? Oh, somebody's saying Jim Harbaugh to the Bears as the next head coach. I don't want Jim Harbaugh to be the Bears' next head coach. How about you guys?
I feel like that's just like a little game we play every time. Like there's a potential link to the Bears. It's like it always makes sense because like Jim Harbaugh is, he's been a successful head coach at two levels. But then there's like the personality, and then it's Jim Harbaugh, and he's a little weird. And does he actually want to come to the Bears, or is he just using them as leverage? So I always love the little Harbaugh dance, but I can't see it happening.
He's more than a little weird, by the way. So I don't think his act would go over big with professional football players, even though he's coached, you're right, at this level, and he also coached at the collegiate level. But I don't see it happening. Danny, who do you want the Bears head coach?
I don't even think Jim Harbaugh is a good college coach, let alone a good NFL coach.
Well, he's right.
It's one of those things where every year somebody from the Bears or some coach gets picked up, an offensive coordinator, somebody who's in the Andy Reid system. Right. I don't care who they get this year. Unless they're getting Andy Reid, I don't want to hear the next guy being in the Andy Reid system. I'm so tired of people saying, this guy was taught by Andy Reid. He's going to be a good coach. And we always complained about who that coach was. At this point, either we get Andy Reid or I don't care who it is. But Jim Harbaugh, no thanks. That guy wasn't a good NFL coach. And the people at Michigan don't even like that guy. So there's no way they should bring that guy into Chicago.
They only do this week, but that's fleeting, by the way.
That's one game against the rivalry. That is not as if they're preparing for the national championship. If
he loses to Iowa, which is at least a possibility this coming weekend, they'll hate him all over again.
There you go.
Hey, Mark, don't worry about criticizing somebody because no one listens to this podcast anyway, even though I'll throw it out to Feeder in the morning. But
right.
What about Ryan Pace's longevity in his position? Honestly, I think these are nice guys. I'm not picking on them personally. I just don't think either one of these guys done a good job. But what do you think?
Well, my thinking all along has been that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace go together, that they are a package deal, that if one goes, they both go, just because that's the way they talk about themselves. We'd laugh about the now I'm actually forgetting the word. What's the word they use to death?
Mark, you can't remember the word?
What, you mean
Mark, what happened?
Who cares?
No, it wasn't who cares. It was them working together. The word for working together. Collaborating.
Collaborating. Okay.
So the collaborating thing, they talk about how they walk together, that they are sort of attached in terms of allowing for feedback from either side. Like they're in it together. Their voices count equally. However, I have heard that, the McCaskies really like Ryan Pace a lot. And, I have not been able to confirm anything exactly on this, but there is talk about adding an extra person to the front office, which is a good idea. I don't know the people, whether you think Ryan Pace should be a part of that or not, but as an idea, it's a great idea. It's just a matter of who you might want up there. And like I said, I'm just going off of the rumors that have been floated. I do not have that confirmed at this point.
Mark, name names.
Yes, that's right.
Enough of the coy stuff.
Don't worry, Mark.
Hey, Dan, be careful. I don't want you to get beat up by Bob Murray. Remember that?
Oh, we're getting to that. Trust me. No, help me to understand this. Help me to understand this, Mark. How can the McCaskies like Ryan Pace when he's given money to quarterbacks that would cut the national debt in half? Mike Glennon, $18.5 million for 4 games. 4
Right,
games.
right.
$10 million to Dalton. Whatever he gave to Trubisky. $24 million. Is it for 3 years to Foles? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I mean, this is stupid money for guys who haven't done anything for this organization.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on, 10 million for 1 year to a quarterback. I mean, whatever. That's like, who
I know.
cares? Sorry to use your word there, Dave. But you have to think too about and yeah, no, I'm not trying to like take away your critiques. It is so divided on Ryan Pace because yeah, there are all those bad things, and he really screwed up the Mitch Trubisky pick. There's no doubt about it. But then, yeah, he is the guy that signed Khalil Mack. He is the guy that drafted Eddie Goldman. He is the guy that drafted Eddie Jackson and Roquan Smith. And he is the guy that signed Danny Trevathan. So, he has put up until recently, he has put together a really good defense. And I know the offense is where everybody needs improvement. But like most GMs in the NFL, that you can play that game with most GMs. He has gotten he has not been good in the first round, but he has done enough to build a really good defense year after year, and the offense is where he can't get it right.
Well, he doesn't have to be good in the first round because he's traded away 3 first-round picks over his span of time. And by the way, he didn't sign Mack; he traded for him.
Well, but I'm just saying the credit that he gets for the people, whether he drafted them, signed them, paid them, traded for them, that does go on his resume still.
Okay, I mean we could argue him all day long. I think he's got to go. I'll be honest with you. I mean, 7 years on the job, no playoff wins. Sorry, you got to go.
Yeah, I'm not here to be his number one defender. I'm just saying that it hasn't been like this 0 for 20. You know what I mean? Like he has done good things. Right, Dan?
Danny, are you there? Or is that a frozen face? I can't tell. He might be frozen. All right, let's bring in Harry.
Dan?
Danny, are you alive?
Ow?
There you are.
Oh, okay. What were you going to say?
No, I think you guys froze on me. I was trying to get this thing to work out. I agree with everything.
Okay, well, that's good. Let's bring in Harry. Harry Berg is a producer here. I wanted to listen. Harry's got some thoughts also, if you can, Harry.
Hi. You know what? I don't know what happened to Mark. Oh, there he is. Mark, I didn't kick you out, Mark. That was all you. That was all. I just can't sit in the back room sitting there listening to this. Really?
Harry,
you guys honestly think that Trubisky was the problem? Really?
Who said Trubisky was the problem?
He says because it was a bad draft because Trubisky was drafted by Ryan Pace. Listen, Trubisky, you're going to find out if Trubisky was good or not next year when he becomes when he becomes a QB1 again. Buffalo did the smartest thing. Trubisky did the best thing by going to Buffalo, in my professional opinion, because he's now going to sit back and learn how to play the position.
Well,
it's not that he didn't know how to do that, Mark. That was play calling.
Well, the problem is Lamar Jackson isn't the quarterback you're going to learn from. It's not like he's sitting in back of Rodgers.
Josh Allen. No, it's not that. It's the coaching staff.
Josh Allen, I'm saying. A quarterback like that, he's going to be good, but Trubisky's not going to get any playing time under a guy like Josh Allen.
No,
that's a franchise quarterback. So Trubisky is going to enjoy a career of just sitting on the bench for the next 5 to 7 years until he gets coiled out and becomes the quarterback for the Jets in about 7 years when he's got nothing left in the tank.
Gentlemen, he signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
the problem is with Trubisky was that you're right. He was not the bad draft pick. It was that there was no offensive line to protect that poor guy, and he had no weapons except for Allen Robinson.
No.
That guy was double teamed every time.
It was a bad draft pick. He did nothing in college to merit being drafted as high as
but there was nothing for that guy to prove. There was no protection. You watch Aaron Rodgers right now, the guy's got like 12, 15 seconds in the pocket. By the time Trubisky snaps it, he's getting sacked. There's no way to see if that guy's developing or not.
You want to know how I know Mitchell Trubisky is not good?
Name a name.
Why. Huh?
Name a name.
Say
Here's why I know he's okay. There are how many teams in the NFL? 32, I think.
Yes.
There were 31 teams. There were 32 teams in the NFL last year who didn't want Mitch Trubisky as a starter. There was one or two teams that wanted Trubisky as a backup. One of them was the Buffalo frickin' Bills. That's how 32 teams and their scouts who can look at a guy and look at him as clay, they all thought he wasn't worth it for a backup role. So that's how I know he's not going to be a starting quarterback.
Okay,
Mark,
I
with all,
I
go
don't
ahead.
want to. I don't want to turn this podcast into a Mitch Trubisky thing because that's old news at this point. I'll just simply
Too late. We're already on the train, buddy.
Yeah.
We're already on the train.
my podcast, and I can dump you in a second. Don't forget that. I'm just going to wrap it up by saying it was a mistake drafting him where they did. It was a dumb pick, and Ryan Pace has had more than one dumb decision. He's got to go. All right, enough of that. Let's move on. NFL guys, what do you think overall? I mean, I said this earlier, and I'll continue to say it. There are no great teams, which in a way is good for the NFL because it's very open-ended. Anybody can win this goofy thing this year. There just aren't any great teams. Anybody want to chime in on that one?
I still think that it's like the NBA with LeBron James. As long as Tom Brady's in the league, the regular season, it is what it is. The minute Tampa Bay gets into the playoffs, Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Evans, they're going to win the whole thing again. So right now, the middle of the season, there's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of twists and turns. But as long as Tom Brady's in the league, that's the best team. And they're the ones that are going to win the Super Bowl again.
Speaking of Tom Brady, I will – like, you're right, David. It's wide open, and that dominant team doesn't exist. But I'm not going to lie to you. The team that I am excited about is the New England freaking Patriots.
Amen.
They've won, I think, 6 in a row now. They're tied for first with the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. I love watching Bill Belichick, work and do like Mac Jones. It reminds me of the way he worked with Brady at first, which was conservatively run game, short passing game. But the guy had 300 yards today, a couple of touchdowns, 0 picks, and a dominant win. It was that I'm enjoying that rebuild. It's interesting.
Well, you got to hand it to Belichick. He is a good coach, obviously a very good coach, and it's not just because he had Tom Brady for all those years. He's a good coach, no question. And I think more than anything else, he wants to win a Super Bowl without Brady, much like Brady won a Super Bowl without him last year. So, I mean, the ratings might be off the charts if they could have a rematch in the Super Bowl this year. I think, and they have a chance. Both teams have a chance of getting there.
I have a different perspective as well. I loved the New England Patriots before the year started. You guys don't know, I'm a professional handicapper. I live in the west coast of Florida. I'm a Chicagoan. And I do get a chance to watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play all the time and really dissect their games. Right now, they're a wounded duck. They're not playing as good as what they should be. However, with that being said, they still have an extraordinary record in the National Football League right now, and there's no real clear-cut dominant favorite, in the NFC right now. But going to the AFC, buddy, 3 weeks ago, I would have said the Kansas City Chiefs were done, and they started winning again. And it's not because of Patrick Mahomes; it's because of that defense has come to life. And I'll tell you what, New England, they're getting it together right now. And that team looks really scary. I picked the New England Patriots on a proposition bet for significant money to win that division over Buffalo. And here's the last tidbit I'm going to give you about the Buffalo Bills. When the season started, they had a mediocre schedule. For strength of schedule, mediocre to slightly hard. After week 11, it ended up being that their schedule was the easiest in the National Football League. Just saying.
Wait. If you're a serious handicapper, what is serious amount of money?
I don't really like to disclose that, but I usually dibble
Are we talking
around.
a Hyundai?
We're usually dibbling into a dime. I'm not much of a straight wagerer. I have a show here on 1252 Sports. I don't wager too many parlays. I'm more of a straight wager kind of guy. Teasers are exactly what they are. They're just teasers. But you've been a little bit of a heater. This week we're 9-2 against the spread. And those are the plays I've given out. That's not how many plays I'll actually make. If I make 3 or 4 of them, that's actually a lot. I usually like to try to find a couple of games that I really like. It looks like Mark was able to come back.
All right,
Hi,
so
Mark. Hi, Dan.
let's switch subjects here. Let's get off football altogether. Let's go to, before we get to baseball, because it's always baseball season, guys. Any thoughts on the Bulls? I mean, the Bulls are a much better team this year than they were last couple of years. Obviously, and adding DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball automatically makes them a better team. But as I talked with the different broadcasters who come in, and I still work with all of them in the NBA, they always ask me, how much better are the Bulls? And I say, well, they're a playoff contender, but they're not a title contender. They're not going to be good enough as currently constituted to win the whole thing this year. And I'm not so sure they're going to even be able to get to the next level because just like the Bears, they don't have that first round draft pick next year. And they might not have it for a couple of years also. So what are your thoughts overall, Mark?
Well, David, let me ask you this. Let me throw the question in the host lap. What are the Bulls missing right now?
An inside game. Vucevic is better than what he's played this season. I mean, he's been hindered obviously by COVID and some other things, but Patrick Williams, and obviously he's still a young player and he's not the second coming of anything at this juncture of his career, but at least he was a big body. They have no big bodies, Danny, at all on their roster other than Vucevic and Tony Bradley, who's at best the backup center. They have no power forwards. They're going up against teams, and they're getting away with it to a degree, going small against a lot of teams, and that's the way a lot of teams play nowadays in the NBA. But eventually, you're going to have more on your front line against some of the bigger teams, and when you match up against those teams, especially come the postseason, you lose. And so, I don't know how they're going to be able to acquire somebody bigger to fortify that front line or get Vucevic more involved on the court. But right now, that's where they're lacking, and I don't know how they overcome that. Mark,
can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Good. Okay. Okay. I just switched to the earbuds. I can hear everybody much better now. Number one, I know that Nikola Vucevic has not played well and hasn't quite gotten his feel for this new offense with the additions of Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan. But I am far from being worried about him. He's a veteran player in this league who has had nothing but success. He's not at an age where he would be going downhill yet. So I wholly feel that he is going to figure out how to belong in there. We've seen some creaks in a really fast start this year. I was disappointed with 2 recent losses. There was Hello?
Portland was one of those 2 losses.
Yeah, that was a bad one. But the 2 that recent ones were the Indiana at home. And I know Indiana is not as bad as their record, but that was a deadhead loss from wire to wire with no energy, and they never really pecked away at the lead. And then the Houston loss I think it was in Houston, but Houston's just bad, and the Bulls lost that game. So that you find for the first time this season, you saw the Bears sort of beaten before they walked onto the court, and that hadn't been happening up until those games.
I think that was Freudian. You said Bears, so you're too involved with the Bears team, even though you meant the Bulls.
And
by the way, that Indiana game is case in point from what I'm saying, because Indiana's got a strong front line in Miles Turner and Sabonis. You got 2 guys that are 6'10" or taller on your front line.
Yeah.
The Bulls right now they're having I don't know, some of the guys who are 6'4", 6'5", covering the other team's center. You can't win in the NBA ultimately doing that. So I don't know how they overcome this. They're much better than they were in the past. DeRozan is obviously very good, and Ball adds a lot, but you can't win unless you got more size. So,
but I will say this, just like the Lakers, it's right now the end of November. There's still a lot of basketball to be played, except for pretty much only a couple guys on the team. It's almost a brand new team. So Vooch getting injured in the last couple of weeks probably isn't going to do a lot of help for those guys. But they are still learning how to play with each other technically. So I still don't think we've seen the Bulls at full strength, and I definitely don't think we've seen them as a full cohesive unit yet. So the minute those guys, I'd say by just before the All-Star break, as long as everybody's healthy, I think you're going to see a lot of differences than what we're seeing right now. Because again, a lot of people said that Levine and DeRozan weren't going to be able to play with each other. And those guys are actually playing really well with each other.
That's
so I think it's just a matter of being healthy.
good players can always play with each other. I've played this game for too long, and not that I'm a good player, of course, but good players can play with each other. It's just that simple. But again, basketball, especially at the NBA level, is a matchup situation with other teams. You cannot match up against a bigger, stronger team with guys who are only 6'4", 6'5". Ultimately, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to be able to do in the long run this season. Patrick Williams' injury has really, really hurt this team. If not right now, even more so as time goes on. So we'll see if they're able to overcome it. I have my doubts.
Well, in today's game, I've always said speed kills. This isn't like in the, back in the 90s. Speed kills.
Yeah.
But you still, in
Are we
football.
talking White Cross or Black Beauties? Which kind of speed are you talking about?
Wow, you really are dating yourself, but that's
Yes, I
okay,
am.
man. I'm just saying. No, but wait till they get Vooch back. I mean, in my opinion, this
He is
team's not
back.
going to look.
He is back.
When he's 100, okay? But
Okay.
this team right now needs
Harry,
Harry.
only because you're down
Harry.
there, you should know better. Vucevic, who's been an all-star, obviously, and he was surrounded by some pretty good players at different times in Orlando. Do you realize that Orlando team was only over 500 one time?
Yeah.
One time. And that was
Wow.
over 42 and 40. I don't want to really knock the guy. He has never been part of anything that has won. He hasn't.
No, he hasn't. I still think it's refreshing to see a Chicago Bulls team at 20 games and they're over 500. What are you kidding me?
It's been a while.
I'm sitting back. I actually got the NBA pass. I was like, you know what? For the last 5 years, I didn't buy it. I mean, baseball, hockey. I have to have my White Sox. I still have to have my Comcast Sportsnet down here, but there was no reason for me to buy.
Harry, are you
NBA
a friend
League
of Dave? Are you a friend of Dave's? What's the connection here?
Never seen him before ever.
Oh, okay. So you guys are buddies, or like, what's the connection here?
Go ahead, Harry.
Actually, I was with a platform called the Bucks Report, and it was down here. And Bucks Report, you might know the sideline reporter, TJ Reeves. He down here for Tampa Bay, and there was a couple of other platforms I was on, and I wanted to kind of just take my brand, what I do, back into the Chicago market because I can relate a little bit better. It's really hard to hold pom-poms.
What is your brand? What's the brand?
Great. I'm glad you asked. I have a show called The Over Under, and we have a show on Friday nights, and my co-host is Peter Blake. You can find it on 1252 Sports. It's also on the Chicago Clubhouse podcast.
Oh, cool.
And whoever else shares it from down here. And very soon we're going to be going to a pay-for-pick, but we're still going to offer it and put it on the other platforms that we're currently using.
Hence Harry the Greek.
There
Correct.
You go. Exactly
Got
right.
it. Okay.
All right. Hey, guys, before we get to the last two segments, I just want to touch real briefly on the Cubs and White Sox. A lot of teams are signing people before December 1st, which is coming up. I believe December 1st is Wednesday, is it? Or is it Tuesday? I'm not even sure. Anyway, that's when the current basic contract agreement between the Players Association and the owners comes to an end. And this is when the unofficial strike can actually start. And there's a lot of fear that this will continue through spring training and maybe even into the season. So a lot of teams, as you've noticed over the last couple of days, are signing players. And, Marcus Semien today went to Texas. It's another one off the board from potentially the White Sox, although they never would have ponied up that kind of money for him. Anyway, I'm just wondering, both Cubs and White Sox fans, inside any of you guys, what do you still see the Cubs or White Sox doing prior to even, hopefully there's a next season, but before the next season starts? Either one, any of you guys.
Mark, go.
I am very interested in seeing what the White Sox ultimately do with their starting staff, because you got Dallas Keuchel, who I think he's under contract, right, for one more year.
He is
with the White Sox, but you don't know, is he going to recover from last year? Is he truly on the downside? Does he have comeback player of the year? You just don't know at this point with him. I still think the jury is out, and I'd love to hear what Harry would say about this, because it would appear that he's a White Sox fan. I think the jury is still out on Dylan Cease. I think the jury is still out on Michael Kopech on whether or not he can be a legitimate starting pitcher. I mean, it is out, so I am interested to see if and how the White Sox will solidify their starting staff. That's what gets me going.
Harry, as a token White Sox fan and somebody who's not in Chicago, what did you think of Tony La Russa this year?
Honestly, I I didn't know what to think. I was not one of the people that was waving my pom poms, for Tony La Russa to come to Chicago. I think the game has kind of left him. So, with that being said, I still think he did a pretty good job. I'm pretty good friends with a previous closer by the name of Roberto Hernandez. I'm sure you guys
Okay.
remember him. He spent about 18 years in the league.
Sure.
And it was just, we go to lunch every once in a while, and we always spark up the conversation about Chicago and what they needed this year. And neither him or I actually thought that they would be a World Series contender this year. And midway through the season, it was primarily because of a couple of things: the injuries that happened and occurred with Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez. We both agreed that Yasmani Grandal is not the answer behind the dish. He can call a good game, but he absolutely is horrible at it as being a defensive catcher.
He's so bad.
As far as the pitcher position, you had asked me about you had mentioned something about
and
Dylan
real quick,
Cease.
Harry, I did another guy I didn't even mention, and he should have been the first guy I mentioned. Is Carlos Rodon is probably not coming back, or do the Sox take a stab at that? So that just adds to the need for a starting rotation that the Sox won because of. That is very much a little bit wobbly right now.
And that's a great comment, but he's going to actually give this team a hometown discount, from what I understand.
No, he's gone. He's gone.
Wait a minute, this guy. Wait. Harry's got sources. Yeah,
no,
it's one source.
Got the same sources, who said that Matt Nagy's going to get fired after the game Thursday.
No, that guy did it for publicity reasons.
Carlos Rodon is not coming back to the White Sox.
The Yankees are very interested in him. He's offering, from what we understand through his agent, a hometown discount, but they're not going to bite on it. You are correct. He's going to go, and it's a shame. But then again, is his arm going to hold up? And he hasn't shown it the past 4 years anyway. And as far as Dylan Cease is concerned, and Michael Kopech, you know what? Another year under their belt, especially for Dylan Cease. He could be a frontline starter. He's got that filthy of stuff. Oh, yeah, I really honestly think that. He's that good. It's just at times he has some control issues.
Totally.
And just by the way,
I don't think he's ever going to be a 1, maybe a 2 if he's lucky.
Right. Listen, and by the way, don't say anything, but I am a closet Cub fan.
Okay, yeah, your secret is safe on this show.
Okay, honestly.
I got to say something. Either Mark's picture is freezing or he's the all-time ventriloquist, because I don't see his lips.
No, it's freezing. No, it's freezing.
You hear
That's
me
why
still?
I didn't go.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
He does like to have his hand up puppet's butt, so I'll give him
I do. I've never denied that.
Harry, by the way, Peter Blake says great job. Harry, did you tell him to say that? I'm just checking on that one.
No, actually, I didn't. Hey, Peter. Thanks for chiming in. It's not me. It's a Chicago. That's right down here. And these three gentlemen, these guys are legends, not me.
Harry is 100% correct. Young pitcher, Dylan Cease. He was the minor league pitcher of the year 2 years ago. He has not really had his feet, gotten that wet yet at the major league level. First year was totally in the COVID situation. Last year, not that much better with this whole COVID situation. So He's only going to get better and better. I agree with Harry on that one. And Kopech, I just think, has got filthy, dirty, great stuff. And we'll see how his arm reacts to, a full season as a pitcher.
Has anybody noticed that his arm doesn't have that 101 mile an hour velocity as he had from before?
Well, I mean, that's actually probably a good thing. If he doesn't have the torque going, that's a good thing, actually. I'm not worried. You mentioned Keuchel. Keuchel did not have a good season last year, although before the season, he had a really good season, even in advance of the season, because he got engaged to Kelly Nash from the MLB Network.
Oh, okay.
I got to read this comment, guys. I'm sorry. It's just gonna set you guys off. Troy Polamalu says, Cubs suck. White Sox is real Chicago.
Oh, I don't care about that stuff.
I'll leave that up there for a minute, guys.
I don't care. Yeah, I really I bet David agrees with me. I really couldn't even fake caring about that stuff anymore. Like, I used to be able to sort of fake care, and I used to care. Of course I cared, like, growing up, but I can't even pretend to fake care anymore about Cubs Sox and the rivalry.
Yeah, I don't care about
guys,
that
can you imagine being the Tampa Bay Rays? No, just think about this for a second. They barely get 5,000 people in the stadium here.
Hey,
you want to talk about awful
Harry,
management?
Harry, I don't want to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. Forgive me, but I'm going to move on. It's my podcast, and I don't want to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. All right, let's switch real quickly.
It's a good move by you, Schuster.
Yeah, I want to do this walk down memory lane segment. And Mark, I'm going to start with you because you've been teasing me on this for years and years and years. On
I'm broken up here. I don't know if you guys. Here I am.
Can you hear me, Mark?
Now I got you. I lost you guys for a couple seconds there.
You've been teasing and sort of mimicking me, and I appreciate it. Who cares? Who cares? Where was the first that came from?
Where was the first time that came from? What did I get it from? How did I come up with it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I got to be honest with you, David. I don't remember the origin of it. I rarely remember the origins of the impersonations that I do. Like, I can't think of. I mean, some are obvious, like, doing the Harrison Ford thing. I mean, that's after the movie comes out in the 90s. I'm probably walking out of the theater doing that one. So that's a little more pinpointable. But I don't know, David. I'm not sure. I think it took a while probably, too, where I maybe felt comfortable doing it because I knew we were friends and I thought you could take it, even though it's very, very much a caricature, which sometimes can just sound ridiculous, even though you're not. So it's like, you know what I mean. You're a very, very good broadcaster. So it's hard to like do those cartoonish things unless I know the person well enough.
I think Mark, I made you laugh one time. I think it was when the Cubs had their announced press conference, whatever the room was down the right field line, and it was when the Ricketts took over ownership. And they had a press conference, and I remember saying to you or somebody on the air, just your run-of-the-mill, billionaire family taking over the franchise. And I know you made fun of me that day. I know that.
Well, no, I remember the line. You said, "Here we are at this big Ricketts purchasing. The Cubs are gonna be. They're leaving the evil empire." And Schuster's like, I probably said something. Oh, this is pretty interesting, huh? And David literally looked at me and goes, if you see one ownership change, you've seen them all.
Yeah, I remember you laughing about that.
I was like, come on, man, it's an ownership change.
Yeah, but I've been front and center on too many of those over the years as well. Hey, Danny, of course, Mark sort of teased it a little bit earlier, so we're going to get into it. Your walk down memory lane segment, of course, was the Bob Murray situation, and we've gone over this a couple of times, but not on this podcast. Do you want to recite the story?
It would be my pleasure.
Please do.
So, we were covering the Blackhawks. They were playing against the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, and it's one of those things where in hockey, not like every other sport, but in hockey, as soon as the game is done, everybody runs to the locker rooms and you can get access to the players like almost immediately. It's crazy. I don't think it's like that anymore. I haven't been in a hockey locker room.
No, it's
other
not.
Teams, the Bears, the Bulls, baseball, you have to wait a little while before you get access to players. But with the hockey teams, it's almost immediately. It's like a gangbuster. So they went in overtime, and I believe Patrick Kane won the shootout, and we bum rushed that elevator. And somehow we were on the 7th floor where the press boxes are, trying to go get to the elevator down to the basement. And we all jammed into that elevator. And somehow I got to be the first one in that elevator. And you were in there, and a couple other people are in there. I don't even know who else was there, but I was making sure my equipment and everything was working. Elevator opens up. Everybody's starting to file out. This older guy turns around right at me, face to face, and goes, "If you ever come in front of me again, I will break every fucking bone in your body."
Oh,
as angry as could be. And I looked at you, and I looked at Chris Cook, and I go, "Who's this guy?" And they go, "That's Bob Murray. I can't believe he just cursed at you." And you guys started going crazy. I didn't even know who the guy was. And he was this close to my face. And I have never seen anybody's eyes get that red angry before in my life. And I've said a lot of dumb things to people. That one took the cake.
He's coked up or something.
Well, and of course, Bob Murray was a longtime Blackhawk player, and at that juncture, and until very recently, he was the general manager of the Anaheim Ducks. And he had to relinquish his job. I guess he's had a little bit of a drinking problem and an anger problem.
Well, there we go.
Of which you saw firsthand, Danny.
Like I said, I've never seen anybody that angry and that piped up that quickly. I mean, that guy was at a full tilt, and I was like, what is going on here?
You were one of his victims.
So, Mark, Bob is asking, can you imitate Ricketts telling Hoyer, no more money?
Probably. I don't think so. No more money for you. No more money for the Cubs. That's in the works. I don't know. Hopefully, we're really hoping to have a good team. Really think it's good. Yeah, I don't know. The Cubs. How about those Cubs, huh?
Either of you guys, before we get to our trivia section, either you, Dan or Mark, have any walk down memory lane segments you want to throw out there?
I would love to hear one of your memory lane stories. I want to hear something old school from you. I want to hear, you told me you used to play against Michael Jordan in basketball. Give me one of those stories.
No, I never said I played against Michael Jordan in basketball.
You played against Michael Jordan? I'm tweeting this. Hold on.
Really? No, I never did that.
You told me you used to shoot around at the Berto Center, and he would be there, and you guys would play.
Oh, yeah. We used to play all the time at the Berto Center after practice, and Bill Winnington used to play, and B.J. Armstrong used to play.
But you never played Jordan.
No, Michael was gone long before, as soon as practice ended, boom, he was out the door.
He's out. He doesn't want to fuck around with any of you guys, right?
Yeah, we used to play against some of those guys. It was fun.
He had a golf game to attend to. He had a couple of million riding on a hole.
Right. Probably. That's good Greek thinking there. I like it.
I don't know, Danny, pick a sport. I'll try and come up with a story real quickly.
Keith Hernandez.
Oh,
Can it have Grobber in it?
Ultimately, Grobber was in that one, sort of. All right, the famous story. This would have been 19. Oh shit! What year was this? I'm terrible on yours. Anyway,
I see Dan. I can't.
It was
frozen on mine.
You're the one who's frozen, but whatever. It was
there. We are.
It was the series against the Mets. The Cubs swept the Mets in that series.
Oh, yeah.
And in successive days, I was kicked out of the Mets clubhouse. Bruce Levine was kicked out of the Mets clubhouse, and ultimately Grobstein was kicked out of the Mets clubhouse. So it was the trifecta back to back to back. And my story with Hernandez was, and this is before we knew that he was coked out of his brains, and half that team was, I think. And anyway, he didn't want to answer one of my questions, which was a softball question at best. And he started, cussing me, saying, fuck you. And I started Michael Jackson moonwalk away from him, but he kept charging after me. And then finally, I'm sort of shortening the story here. Finally, their PR director, Jay Horowitz, a mealy-mouthed guy, said that you got to get out of here because you're causing a commotion, when actually it was Hernandez who was frothing at the mouth like a rabid dog. And so I was escorted out by the gendarmes back in the day, and it was written up in the Sporting News. Ultimately, I got an apology from the Mets because I was working for WFAN that day.
Oh.
They pushed the envelope, and so the Mets and the National League office on top of that apologized to me. Then the next day, Levine got kicked out of the Mets clubhouse because he told Ed Lynch, who was a reliever at the time, and this is long before he became the Cubs general manager, that Levine didn't like one of his answers, and
who the fuck are you? Right? He was like, "Who are you?"
Well, I mean, I think Bruce's retort was, if it wasn't for guys like us, you wouldn't have a job.
Right.
And Lynch went crazy on that, and so Bruce got kicked out. And then Grobstein was playing, some of the stories from the preceding 2 days, and Horowitz, the Mets PR director, was pissed off about that, so he got kicked out of the clubhouse. So yeah, it was the trifecta. All three of us got kicked out of the clubhouse back to back days.
That's beautiful. I loved it.
Keith Hernandez, not the nicest guy, that you saw on Seinfeld, although
right.
Seinfeld, but he was coked out of his head, I'm sure, that day.
Right. So that might have been it. That might have been why he was a dick, intense, and all that stuff, from what I understand.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's do the trivia question. questions. I tried these out earlier, in fact, so he knows the answers to all these questions, but I'm going to try them out on you guys. So here we go, Mark, and some of these are right up your alley because there are a lot of Bears questions.
Oh, you're putting pressure on me, man. Okay, go ahead.
I am. That's exactly right. So Dan, you're off the hook, but
I was gonna say I already have no idea, so let's just quiz Mark.
All right,
just ask the question.
Okay. Akeem Hicks, where'd he go to college, Mark?
Oh my, because he went to 2 colleges.
He did.
That's good. Yeah. Where did he start? Oh, he started at a very well-known college. Oh, he started at Florida State, I think.
Nope.
Florida? No.
Nope.
And then he ended up at a very small school. God, I'm not going to be able to pull the names.
Okay, here we go. He actually started out at Sacramento City College.
Yeah.
Not exactly well known, by the way.
Right.
And then he transferred to Regina or Regina. Take your pick.
Yeah.
It's Regina.
I do think it's Regina.
It's Regina. That's up A in Canada. A.
Yeah, it's in Saskatchewan. So
and
then I think he played some like minor league football, and then he finally got drafted by New Orleans in the 3rd round, becoming the second highest player from Canada ever to be drafted by the NFL.
Right. Then he goes to the Patriots and then eventually to the Bears, where he sits now and will probably be exiting after the season is over on January 9th.
It's really too bad, Mark, because I haven't, I or nobody else has gone into the locker rooms, obviously, now for a couple of years, but I always love waiting for Akeem Hicks, who was one of the last ones to talk in the locker room. And he was so much fun and interesting to talk to.
He's a pretty fascinating guy. I'll say that. Like, I will miss him. He was a hell of you talk about a successful Bears player from contract to contract that is living up to your contract.
Yeah. All right. Here's the next one.
Hold on.
That's pretty good. But I ain't going to read that one. But that's still pretty good.
Oh, I didn't see it. You guys have a little joke, I see.
Can you see this, Mark? If your screen is
I got to put on my little reading glasses.
Dolores.
God, Jesus, you're not in Medicare yet.
Oh, wait a minute.
That's a trivia question. What are the 3 Chicago streets that rhyme with vagina?
Nice.
Well, the last one killed me. All right, Mark, there have been 4 presidents of the Bears. 4 presidents of the Bears. Who are they?
Presidents, as in Ted Phillips, right?
That is one. Only 3 other people have had that designation.
That does it. Okay, I'm going to say Michael McCaskey.
That's 2.
I am going to say
Hallis.
That's 3.
Yes. Dan, what else you got?
Ditka.
Not
George
Ditka.
So George Hallis. Oh, was it? Oh God, it was somebody with the '85 Bears, right?
No.
Jerry Venisi.
No, he was the general manager.
Okay.
Oh, this one's going to be good. Wait till you hear this answer.
Jim Finks.
No, Jim Finks was actually the president of the Cubs, but he was not president of the Bears.
No, he helped build the '85 Bears. Jim Finks was with the Bears.
That wasn't his title, though.
Okay.
Bob Murray.
All right, who's the other name? Bob Murray.
I'll give it to you. George Hallis Sr. and George Hallis Jr.
Oh, come on. Okay. All right. Yeah. but that facts are facts, but it's a little bit of a trick question.
Why? You're
right, and I should have been thinking that way, but I'm thinking of 5 different people. That's what I'm working through, That's why it's a little.
There you go.
You mean Muggs, of course.
Right, Muggs. Yeah.
All right, how about this one? Matt Nagy, pretty good college football player. Where?
He went to Delaware.
Regina. Does that name with the same street, Dan?
Yeah. No, he's a Delaware guy.
That is correct.
I got that one right, too, today. I couldn't believe it.
And he holds a lot of their records. I looked it up today. By the way, and Harry didn't know this one, but he did know the Delaware. What's Delaware's nickname?
The Mighty
Horn-
Lunts.
The Mighty Lunts?
The
Lunts.
other name that rhymes with Regina.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
The Delaware like hootered owls or something like that.
Close.
You're in the neighborhood. They're the Blue Hens.
You got to
Blue
give that
Hens.
to him, man. You got to give that to him.
All right, let's see. All right, here's a good one. Speaking of George Halas, he purchased the Bears franchise, which originally was called the Decatur Staleys, and he purchased them, and I didn't know this, from the Staley Food Starch Company.
Wow.
Can't make this shit up. So he purchased them, and it became an NFL franchise. How much did he pay the Staley Food Starch Company for the Bears?
I'll say 50 grand.
I'll say a couple of sawbucks.
Ye-
A couple
Bing, bing,
shekel.
bing, bing,
Yeah,
bing,
you're-
bing, 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 bing.
Very close, Danny. $100.
Oh no, I lost you guys.
Can you hear us though?
Oh no, I didn't. Now I want to know the answer here, and I can't see. God damn it!
He
Can you hear?
played.
Can you hear
What?
us though, Mark?
I hear you.
Mark,
Okay, what was the
100
answer?
years.
The answer is $100.
Oh my God!
$100, and they're now worth $4 billion.
Wow, they should just do a victory dance every day of their lives. That's
Hey,
amazing.
Mark, let me ask you this because I had an argument. with-
Apple don't have shit on the Bears. That was an investment there. $100.
So, Mark, I had this debate with a friend of mine today. I said ultimately the Bears are going to move to Arlington Heights, and I'm sure you have some thoughts on that. It just makes too much economic sense. I mean, they'll just be printing money and get out of Soldier Field. And I said maybe after they're in Arlington Heights and the whole complex with the hotels and the casino and everything else, that maybe about 5 to 8 years after that, then maybe the McCaskey family sells because $4 billion will become $8 billion.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. I mean, I've heard that like some McCaskies want to sell, some want to keep it. So I don't know who wins over what, and if eventually they want to liquidate. It seems like the org is in their heart too. So it's hard for me to think they would be actively plotting out a sale of the team unless it just became crazy not to. As far as them moving to Arlington Heights, I am over Soldier Field, to be honest with. Like when those reports first came out, I love the location of Soldier Field. I think it's one of the most beautiful sports venues in the country. So I don't like the idea of it, but they do got to get into the century in terms of having their own field and amenities and being able to put more people in there that are indoors. It just will be more enticing to everybody from a player perspective, from a profit perspective, from a fan base perspective. Unfortunately, it would be the right thing to do.
It's all about the Benjamins, and ultimately that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't know exactly, but it will happen.
Yeah, but the Benjamins will make the fans happy too, and that's like one time when,
Sure.
yes, they will make tons of money, and so will Arlington Heights, and so will that stadium, but it will also be befitting to the fans and the players.
All right, couple
Mark,
more
how many Benjamins is it going to cost to unfreeze your face?
Am I frozen right now?
Yes,
You've been frozen since we started.
I have a
that's so
question.
weird.
Can I ask just the one question? Because I really like to kind of hear this answer to this. I'm an advocate of gambling, but I am not an advocate of having sports books at the venue like they have in Washington right now. And this is primarily why they want to go to Arlington. And eventually in the next 5 to 7 years, you're going to have it literally in every single sporting venue. What are your thoughts on it?
Again.
Because I honestly don't like the idea of having a sports book where you can make a live wager on the game at the game.
But Harry, that's just the way it is. Especially, you're down in Florida, but up in Illinois, they're all going to be attached to the venues, whether it's Wrigley Field or Soldier Field or wherever
it's going to be the same way here because they've legalized sports betting here in Florida. There's just a couple of things that they're ironing out. The Seminole tribe now continuously has them. I just think, from a gambler's perspective, there's going to be a lot of cheating in sports.
Yeah,
Oh,
but to be honest, it is the 21st century, and you can make a live wager on your phone. So
You can't
there's
have
not
a
much
phone
of
on the
difference
sideline,
between
though.
a phone and going over towards another room where it's probably a little safer for you to go to an actual sports book and place that wager.
No, I'm talking about the players themselves or the referee, because you can't have a phone on the field. There's too many television cameras. But what stops the referee going? And that's the guy sitting up at section 220 telling
The
the
same
Levy.
thing that's not stopping them right now.
Put
That's
100
true.
on that guy in the backfield. I like him to go all the way. Oh, wait, I'm on camera.
I mean, that could be
Well,
done either right
it
now.
just-
The guy who's calling
I know.
the penalty right now could also do the same head
right.
motions.
That's
So
not
you're
Hey,
saying
man,
it's a
that's
good
very-
idea?
It's not a great wormhole to go down, I don't think, because you could kind of do that with anything when it comes to betting. Like, I get what you're saying, but I think it's a little extreme.
All right, a couple more trivia questions real quick.
Thank you, by the
guys.
Sure.
Only one player in NFL history has been named All-Pro at defensive tackle, offensive tackle, and fullback. Who are we talking about?
Ditka.
Thor. Thor.
Not Ditka. Not the coach.
Was
Zach
it?
Levine.
Is this person known more for his work in the Olympics?
No. But
Okay, then.
you're thinking of Jim Thorpe, of course.
I sure am. Yeah.
But it's not that much longer after Jim Thorpe.
Okay, boy, this is going to be. I
Walter
got a
Payton?
feeling it's going to be an old school. It's obviously an old school name because
It
nobody
is.
does two-way.
It
So
is.
this is some player in the beginning decades of the league.
It's famous name. Famous name.
Oh, it is.
Walter
How
Payton?
about
Not Walter Payton.
not Walter
Offensive
Payton?
tackle? Defensive
He
tackle?
played that guy was everything.
He was good at everything, but he didn't play it.
Yeah, Tommy Harris. No,
Harris.
I don't know. I
Bronco Nagurski.
God, that is incredible. I just think of Bronco as a running back.
No, he was back in those days. They, Danny said it. They played both ways back in those days.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, they sure did. Yep, they did. No, it makes sense.
All right, a couple more real quickly. When the Bears did win the Super Bowl, New England had two quarterbacks that game. They were both horse shit. Who were they?
Steve Grogan and Tony Eason.
That is correct.
Nice.
Thank you.
That is correct. And Harry, why don't you recite some of the stats from that game?
From which game? Sorry.
From the Super Bowl when the Bears won, both the guys, the quarterbacks.
That was Steve Grogan and Tony Eason.
Hello?
I was actually at that game, and
Oh,
for halftime, I don't quote me, they were minus yards passing. I think their total offense was minus
there
yards.
I am.
They had 4 yards rushing in that game also. All right, 2 more questions, guys. From that Super Bowl winning champion team, the 85 Bears, later on, 4 of those players ended up in a Green Bay Packer uniform. Who were they?
Jim McMahon was one of them.
1.
Steve McMichael.
There's 2.
Tom Thayer.
No.
Oh, wait a minute. No.
Fridge.
No.
No, it wasn't Fridge.
By the way, I have Dan on today just to be comic relief, by the way.
I was going to say, there's no other reason for me to be on this podcast.
I
I'm not
love
gonna make
Dan.
a blunt reference. What am I doing here?
I love Dan.
I do too.
We do
I do
too.
too.
We do too. Trust
All right,
me.
wait. So there's 2 more though.
Yep.
Are they defensive players or offensive players? I got
One-
McMichael and McMahon.
1 each.
Okay, so I still have an offensive player and a defensive player.
Think quarterback.
Oh, Tom Zach.
That's 3. And then the
Tom
defensive
Zach.
player, think linebacker.
Okay.
Singletary?
Otis Wilson.
No. He went to the Raiders.
Think
Amber Marshall.
backup linebacker.
Washington.
Oh, more or Rivera.
No.
No. You had the right first one.
Yeah, you started saying it.
One more time.
Morrissey.
Yes, Jim Morrissey is correct.
Yeah, I forgot he was on that team. Yep.
Okay, Dan, this is your time to shine. I got the last one. It's not even a sports question. Aha! I got his attention. What is the longest street in Chicago?
The longest street?
Yes.
Western.
There you go. You win.
Wow. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I would have said Lakeshore Drive
Traffic
or something
reporter.
stupid like that.
That's
Traffic
right.
reporter.
I did it just for you. How long is it?
Longer than this podcast.
No, not really.
That's a good question because I know it extends.
Wait a second. What's got more potholes, this podcast or Western Avenue?
Wherever Regina State is, I'm sure it's got more potholes.
But, you know, I was driving yesterday on Western Avenue and I did about 5 miles. It's 23 and a half miles long. That's how long Western Avenue is from 119th Street to Howard Street at the north end. But there's a cat. No, there's a pussy, by the way.
Oh,
Here you go,
Lima.
David, just for you.
oh
Anyway,
don't misuse that cat.
there is no street in the world that's got more potholes than Western Avenue. Let me tell you.
Why don't you take a couple laps through Cicero? I'm sure you'll find it just as nice.
You might be right. You might be right.
My hometown.
Yeah. Hey guys, I think we're out of time, but appreciate you joining us. I hope you had some yucks and some laughs along the ways in doing this.
Anytime.
And Mark froze.
Bye, Dave. I can't hear you guys, but bye.
Okay. Mark, thank you very much. Danny,
Bye.
thank you very much. Harry, thank you very much. And I'll talk to you guys all soon, okay?
Bye.
See you guys.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and pull everybody out for you. I'll leave you on.
Why did he freeze so much? Because he was on his cell phone, you think?
Oh, I don't know, but you're not ended yet.
Oh. Well, let's end it.
Absolutely. David, thank you so much for having me on. I thought it was an absolute blast. I'll tell you what, you have some really cool friends. And I have to say, you know, even from being down here, I've actually followed their careers as well, just like I did yours. I was like a kid in a candy store. They're really cool guys. They ball busters, don't get me wrong. Okay, they really are. I mean, that's great.
Okay. All right. Good night, everybody.